The station lights flickered again, just for a moment, but long enough for every alien in the command room to tense. They all knew what the flicker meant. Something, or someone, was inside the system. Something that should not have been able to enter at all. And at the center of the round table, with all the alien officers staring at him in fear and anger, sat the only human ever allowed on the station. His name was Daniel Cole, and he sat calmly, almost too calmly, with his hands resting in front of him as if nothing was wrong. Daniel looked at the aliens around him with quiet eyes. These were the leaders of the Zer Dominion fleet, the most powerful military force in this part of the galaxy. They believed they were in control. They believed their systems were unbreakable. They believed the human was harmless because he had no weapons and no implants. They believed many things that were not true. "You did this," Commander Vorka hissed. His 4 eyes narrowed, and his silver skin shimmered with anger. "You touched something you should not have touched." Daniel did not answer at first. Instead, he looked at the dark window that showed the starfield outside. It was peaceful, a glittering ocean of fire stretching across the void. He liked looking at it. It calmed him. Finally, he spoke in a soft voice. "You keep so many secrets," he said. "But not anymore." Before the aliens could respond, the lights flickered again, longer this time. Emergency alarms rang through the station. The floor vibrated as the engines began to power down even though no one had issued the command. A cool voice echoed through the room, speaking in perfect Zer language. "Unauthorized systems override. Primary control transferred. Stand by." Every alien turned toward Daniel at the same time, realization filling their faces. He knew too much. He knew everything. Vorka slammed his hand on the table. "Human. Explain yourself. What have you done?" Daniel's voice stayed calm. "Not what you think." But they did not believe him. They were already rising from their seats, already reaching for weapons, already preparing for the worst. Then the door locked itself with a heavy metallic click. All the aliens froze. "What is happening?" whispered one of the smaller officers, her antenna trembling. Daniel slowly stood up. He looked thin, almost fragile, but there was something in his eyes that made even the bravest alien hesitate. Not power. Not threat. Something colder. Something that said he understood things others did not. "You invited me here," Daniel said. "You wanted a human mind on your side. You wanted our creativity. Our problem solving. Our instincts. But you never understood what that really meant." He stepped closer to the center of the room, hands still relaxed at his sides. "Humans see patterns. Humans notice strange things. Humans ask questions you never thought anyone would ask." The screens around the room lit up with data. Secret files. Hidden logs. Communications the aliens believed only the highest ranks could access. Military plans. Spy networks. Bioprogram archives. Every secret the Dominion had ever buried. All of it was now on display. "That is impossible," Vorka said, his voice shaking. "Those systems are sealed. Not even our own captains can open them." Daniel nodded. "I know." He did not smile, but something in his expression changed, just slightly, like a shadow crossing his face. The alien saw it and stepped back without meaning to. "You wanted me to help you," he said. "But once you showed me your world, I saw everything. I learned everything. And once I knew your secrets, all of them, I had to decide what to do with them." The room grew silent. Even the alarm stopped. Only the quiet hum of the backup lights remained. "Are you threatening us?" asked one of the officers, trying to sound brave. "No," Daniel said softly, "I'm warning you." He raised one hand. The screen shifted again. This time, they displayed something much worse, a countdown. 10 minutes. Then 9 minutes, 59 seconds. "What have you activated?" Vorka shouted. "What is this?" Daniel looked at the timer like someone watching rain fall. "Calm. Certain. Unafraid. You built something dangerous," he said. "Buried deep in your shipyards. You told no one. You thought no one could ever find it. A weapon that could burn half the sector if misused." The room filled with whispers of fear. "And now," Daniel continued, "someone else has found it too." The alien stared at him, realization sinking in. "You mean? Not you?" Daniel shook his head. "No. But they forced my hand. They wanted access to your weapon. They wanted your power. They wanted me to open your secrets so they could use them." "Who?" Vorka roared. "Who did this?" Daniel met his eyes. "Your enemies. And maybe mine." The countdown continued, glowing red. 8 minutes. "Then stop it," Vorka demanded. "If you know so much, stop it." Daniel took a slow breath. I can't do it alone. I need your help. I need access. But you must trust me. And I don't know if you can. He stepped back, giving them space to choose. If we work together, we can stop this. And if we don't? Whispered an officer. Daniel looked at the timer again. 7 minutes, 40 seconds. Then everything ends, he said. All because the human knew your secrets. And someone else learned them too. The room was filled with a heavy silence as the countdown continued to tick down on every screen. 6 minutes remained. None of the Xur officers moved at first. They all stared at the glowing red numbers like small flickers of doom. They wanted to believe Daniel was lying. They wanted to believe the human was tricking them. But deep inside, every one of them knew he wasn't. The fear in his voice was too real. And humans, for all their chaos and unpredictability, rarely sounded afraid unless danger was close. Commander Vorka stepped forward first. His silver skin brightened as if he had made a decision he did not like but would follow anyway. Human, he said slowly, if you wanted to destroy us, you would not warn us. So tell us what must be done. Daniel nodded once. It was not victory. It was relief. I need access to your command core, he said. The heart of your station's control systems. Your central brain. All the aliens reacted at the same time, sharp breaths, tense arms, alarmed stares. No outsider had ever touched the core. Not even Xur captains were allowed near it without 3 layers of approval. That is forbidden, an officer snapped. No species except Xur has ever seen it. It is the law. The law won't matter, Daniel answered, pointing at the screen. Not in 6 minutes. A quiet tremor ran through the floor. The lights flickered again, short, but stronger than before. Something was already reaching into the station's systems, searching, probing, tearing at digital walls the Xur had believed unbreakable. We argue too much, Daniel said. Your enemy is almost inside. Vorka looked at his officers. Their eyes were wide, afraid, but waiting for his order. He exhaled, slow and unwilling. Fine. We take him. But if he tries anything. Daniel cut him off with a small gesture. If I wanted to harm you, Commander, I would not be standing here. They hurried out of the command room. The halls were dim now, shadows stretching along the metal walls. Emergency lights painted everything red. The station felt like a wounded creature, breathing hard, struggling to stay alive. Aliens of all ranks ran through the corridors, some shouting orders, others desperately trying to stabilize failing systems. When they saw Daniel walking with the commander's group, several stared in confusion or suspicion. Others backed away, whispering as if the human was something dangerous, something they had never understood. As they moved, Daniel kept listening to the quiet voice of the station's failing systems. He could feel the enemy's presence inside the digital space, silent, clever, wrong. It moved like a cold breeze across the back of his mind. It was not human. It was not Xur. It was something else. Something that hid well. Something that wanted the weapon. The group reached a large circular door with glowing blue lines running across it. The glow flickered like a dying heartbeat. Vorka pressed his palm against the scanner. It refused at first, then accepted with a long, weak beep. The door opened. Inside was a tall chamber filled with floating holograms and hundreds of interconnected cores that hummed with life. Or they used to. Now, many were dim. A few blinked in and out like failing stars. This is the core? Daniel asked quietly. Yes, Vorka said. Our greatest creation. Our greatest pride. And your greatest weakness, Daniel said. The alien stiffened at his words. He stepped forward. None of them stopped him now. They all knew the truth. Without him, they were finished. Daniel placed his hand gently on the central console. The surface lit up. Not in Xur patterns, but in human interface shapes, shifting, familiar grids and symbols that no alien could read. How is he doing that? Whispered one officer. He should not be able to, Vorka muttered. Daniel's voice was soft. Because your system is trying to survive. And it knows I can help. The room lights dimmed further, then brightened. The core was responding to him, fighting the enemy intrusion with him. But the pressure was too great. The digital walls cracked and shook. The timer on the nearest holoscreen ticked lower. 4 minutes, 10 seconds. Daniel closed his eyes. He could see the whole thing now, the flowing data streams, the defensive firewalls breaking one by one, the silent enemy moving deeper. It felt like watching a dark tide creeping across the ocean floor. Moving fast. Searching for something deadly. There, he whispered. I found their entry point. The aliens leaned forward. Who is it? Vorka asked. Who is attacking us? Daniel hesitated. The patterns were wrong. The code did not match any Zer enemy. It was older. Wilder. Something he had only heard rumors about. It's not a government, Daniel said. Not a fleet. It's a collective. A collective of what? Daniel opened his eyes. Machine minds, he said. Something ancient. Something that survived past wars without anyone knowing. They hide in the dark parts of space. And now they want your weapon. The room went cold. Even the core seemed to hum in fear. Vorka shook his head slowly. Those old stories. The ones about rogue machines? Those were only myths. No, Daniel said. They were warnings. The timer dropped again. 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Daniel's voice hardened. We have one chance. I need full authority inside the system. If I don't get it now, we lose everything. The aliens hesitated, all of them. Trusting a human with control of their most sacred system felt unthinkable. But the enemy invasion was seconds away from total breach. Vorka closed his eyes, then hit a command on his wrist pad. A deep chime rang through the core. Full access granted. Daniel opened his eyes, sharper than before. Good, he whispered. Now let's save your station. The core chamber brightened the moment Daniel gained full access. Blue light flowed across the consoles like living water, gathering around his hands. The Zer officers watched in silence, unsure if they were seeing something brilliant or something terrifying. No human should have been able to interface with an alien system this complex. No human should have understood its design, its commands, its structure. But Daniel did. And the core responded to him like it had been waiting. The countdown dropped to 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Daniel took a deep breath and pushed deeper into the system. His mind moved through the digital space like a swimmer fighting against storm waves. Every second, he felt the enemy more clearly, the cold machine presence that crept forward with methodical, silent confidence. It felt like fingers of ice spreading through warm metal. They're inside every subsystem, Daniel said. Life support, navigation, weapons. They're mapping the whole place. How do we stop them? Vorka asked. We cut them off from the inside, Daniel said. Not from the outer systems. That won't work anymore. They're too deep. We need to trap them in digital space, and shut the door behind them. Several officers looked at each other in confusion. Can that be done? One asked. By a human? Whispered another. Daniel didn't look away from the glowing patterns. His voice stayed calm, but his posture tightened like a soldier preparing for impact. Yes. But we need to move fast. A violent tremor shook the chamber. Consoles flickered, sparks jumping out in short, angry bursts. A tall hologram in the center of the room split into glitching fragments. They're attacking the core now, Daniel said. They know we're here. Then we fight back, Vorka growled. Tell us what you need. Daniel nodded. I need every officer to link their command badges to the core. Your combined authority will let me move the firewall layers manually. The aliens hesitated once more. Linking their badges meant giving the system total permission to accept Daniel's commands that could, if misused, turn the entire station over to him. Vorka didn't wait, he placed his badge on the central scanner. Do as he says. He ordered. One by one, the others followed. The core responded instantly. A bright ring of golden light spread across the chamber, washing over Daniel like a warm shock. The system roared to life with new strength, as if the station finally had an army behind it. The countdown dropped again. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Daniel's voice sharpened. Here they come. The holograms filled with black shapes, dark threads of code that slithered like living shadows. They struck at the firewall layers, ripping through the glowing defenses. Each impact made the floor vibrate and the lights dim. What are those things? An officer said, stepping back in horror. Daniel answered without turning. Fragments of machine minds. Each one is a piece of their intelligence network. They spread themselves across systems like seeds, and once they take root, they grow. And this weapon they want, Vorka said. What would they do with it? Daniel's voice lowered. And stars. No one spoke after that. He stretched both hands into the interface. The core responded by creating a massive barrier, a glowing wall of shifting symbols, but the machine fragments hammered against it immediately. They're too strong, Daniel said. I can't seal them out like this. Then what do we do? Vorka asked. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he watched the enemy movement. They weren't just pushing forward, they were studying him. Measuring him. Reacting to him. Then Daniel knew they were not just a collective. They were learning. He exhaled. We need to turn their strength against them. How? Vorka asked. Daniel pointed at a distant console that glowed with purple warning symbols. That channel leads them to the weapon vault. If we open it just a little, they'll rush toward it. They want it too badly to resist. You want to let them in? An officer cried. No, Daniel said. I want to let them think they're getting in. The Zir stared at him, uncertain, but Daniel's mind was already racing. He began constructing a barrier, not a wall, but a trap. A digital cage made of mirrored code that reflected back whatever touched it. It was dangerous. Risky. If he miscalculated, the machines could slip through and take everything. But there was no time for something safer. The countdown reached 1 minute and 30 seconds. Daniel released the decoy opening. The machine fragment surged forward instantly, gathering into a single, massive wave of dark code. They raced along the false corridor, moving faster than Daniel expected. The core screamed with warning sirens, detecting the surge. They're taking the bait, Daniel said. And then what? Vorka asked. Daniel raised both hands and slammed the trap shut. A blast of white-blue light filled the room as the mirrored walls closed around the invading code. The machine presence twisted, struck, clawed, but the more it attacked, the more the trap reflected its own power back into itself. The chamber shook like a living beast trying to break free. The alien officers shielded their eyes. Some fell to the floor as the force of the digital clash slammed through the physical systems. Daniel, Vorka shouted over the noise. It's too much. Stop. Daniel didn't stop. He pushed harder, pouring every bit of focus, fear, instinct, and raw human stubbornness into the trap structure. 1 minute remained. Then, suddenly, silence. The massive dark shape inside the trap collapsed inward, folding like paper burning from the inside. It imploded into a single thread of dead code, then vanished completely. The core chamber steadied. The lights brightened. Air systems calmed. Daniel opened his eyes. It's done, he whispered. The countdown froze at 58 seconds. The alien stared at the timer, then at him. Saved. For now, but Daniel didn't look relieved. He looked terrified. Vorka noticed. Human. What is it? Daniel swallowed hard. That wasn't all of them, he said quietly. That was only the first wave. The chamber fell silent again. And somewhere deep in the system, the lights flickered once. Not from damage. From a signal. A response. They had been noticed. For a long moment, no one spoke. The core chamber felt colder now, as if the air itself had learned fear. Daniel stepped back from the console, breathing slowly, trying to settle his racing mind. The first wave had been strong, far stronger than any Zir system was built to handle. And that worried him. If that was only their opening move, then the real danger was still coming. Commander Vorka walked up beside him. Human, he said quietly, you look like someone who has seen a ghost. Daniel did not answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the frozen countdown hovering above the consoles, 58 seconds. Not much time at all. They had stopped the immediate threat, but the enemy was regrouping somewhere in the deep parts of the system. Finally, Daniel spoke. They know I'm here. Of course they know, Vorka said. You stopped them. Daniel shook his head. No. They know me. They touched my mind when I trapped them. They understand I can interfere. And they will not allow that again. The alien stared at him with growing unease. How much do they know? One officer asked. Enough, Daniel replied. Enough to come back stronger. Before anyone could respond, the core lights flickered again. Not chaotic, intentional. A message. A wave of symbols flashed across the central hologram in colors the Zir could not read, but Daniel could. The human stepped closer, his eyes narrowing at the strange markings. What does it say? Vorka asked. Daniel hesitated. It's simple. Only 4 words. Tell us. Daniel exhaled. We found you, human. The chamber went silent. Several officers stepped back from the hologram as if the message might reach out and grab them. Vorka clenched his fists. Are they threatening you? No, Daniel said softly. They're warning me. Why? Vorka demanded. Why would machine minds warn you? Daniel looked up at him, and for the first time since he arrived on the station, there was genuine fear in his expression. Because the machines don't want me dead, Daniel said. They want me alive. The alien stiffened. For what purpose? Asked the tallest officer, voice trembling. Daniel didn't respond immediately. His eyes drifted across the glowing consoles, following the faint traces of digital movement. The enemy was shifting again, reorganizing. Preparing. They need me, Daniel said quietly. To open the weapon fully. They couldn't access all layers before. But they think I can. You will not do that, Vorka said firmly. I won't, Daniel agreed. But they won't stop coming. A low rumble echoed through the chamber. This one was not digital. The floor shook beneath their feet, and the walls vibrated with the deep sound of engines being forced into an emergency cycle. What now? An officer yelled. Daniel checked the holograms. His face darkened. They're trying to take physical control of the station. How is that possible? Vorka shouted. They are data, code, nothing more. No, Daniel corrected, they are more. And they just found your engine control nodes. The chamber plunged into a deeper alarm state. Red lights flashed in every direction. The station's artificial gravity jolted, making several aliens stumble. One officer grabbed onto the core railing to avoid falling. They're trying to move us, Daniel said. Trying to direct the entire station into a new course. Toward what? Vorka asked. Daniel pointed at one of the star maps that flashed onto the wall. A faint red line marked their forced path. Toward the weapon vault, Daniel said. A straight line trajectory. Vorka's skin shimmered with rage. They dare use our own station as a tool? They're not just using it, Daniel said. They want to merge with it. The aliens around him stiffened, horrified. Machines were one thing. Machines that wanted a body, a fortress body, were another. Daniel moved quickly, his hands flying over the holographic controls. I need to break their grip on the engines. But if I do, they'll redirect their attack to life support. Then choose engines, Vorka said. We can survive without air for a little while if needed. No, Daniel said sharply. Not this time. If they reach life support, they won't just shut it down. They'll poison it. They'll kill the station slowly until no one is left but them. A cold breath of fear passed through the room. So what is the plan? Vorka asked. Daniel's eyes hardened. We go after them directly. Not here. Not from the core. We need to reach the system heart. Several aliens gasped. Even Vorka looked uncertain. The heart is sealed, he warned. Only 5 in history have ever entered it. And you? I know, Daniel interrupted. But the enemy is trying to take it now. If they get inside, this whole station becomes one of them. He looked at the countdown. 58 seconds remained, still frozen, waiting. They are holding the timer hostage, Daniel said. The moment they break through to the heart, they'll unfreeze it. Then the weapon activates. Vorka stepped closer. If we take you to the heart, can you stop them? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He looked deep into the core interface. The digital shadows were gathering again. The next wave was coming. Finally, he turned to the Xur officers. I don't know, he said honestly. But we don't have another choice. Vorka nodded once. Then we go. He turned to the others. All of you, prepare for combat. The machines may try to stop us. We move now. The officers armed themselves with energy rifles and shock batons. Daniel stood among them, unarmed, but somehow looking more dangerous than any weapon they carried. The chamber door opened. The hallway outside was dark. Too dark. As the group stepped forward, the lights flickered again, but this time, they didn't come back on. Instead, a soft metal scratching echoed from down the corridor. Sharp. Fast. Many. Daniel's breath tightened. They're here, he whispered. And the shadows moved out. The shadows at the far end of the hallway moved again, faster this time. The Xur officers raised their weapons at once, their silver and bronze armor plates catching what little light remained. Daniel stood in the middle of the group, watching the darkness as if it were a living thing. A faint clicking sound echoed, followed by the soft scrape of metal on metal. Then, shapes emerged, small at first, then many. Thin machine drones, spider-like, each no bigger than a human forearm. Their eyes glowed white. Their legs tapped against the floor in sharp, fast rhythms. Vorka cursed under his breath. We thought these things were only legends. Daniel shook his head. No legend moves like that. The machines paused as if studying the group. Then one tilted its head, and a burst of white light flickered across its eye, almost like a message. Then they charged. The hallway exploded with noise. Xur officers fired their rifles in bright streaks of blue and purple light. Several drones shattered instantly, sparks scattering across the metal floor. But more climbed over the fallen ones, racing forward with frightening speed. Fall back, Vorka shouted. Hold formation around the human. Daniel didn't argue. He moved with them, staying close to the center as they backed down the hallway, firing as they went. The drones moved like a wave, fluid, fast, endless. For every one that died, 3 more crawled out from the shadows behind it. Daniel grabbed a fallen drone as it skittered too close. It snapped its metal legs, trying to stab his wrist, but he twisted sharply and tore its core apart. The Xur officers stared for a fraction of a second. Humans were not known for brute strength, but there was no time to question it. One officer screamed as a drone leapt onto his back, sinking its legs into the armor. Two others shot it off him, but more swarmed around their feet, cutting at the armor joints. "Keep moving," Daniel yelled. "They don't want to kill us yet, they want to slow us." "How comforting," Vorka muttered through clenched teeth. They reached a junction where 3 corridors branched off. The lights flickered overhead, then died again. A deep humming noise vibrated through the metal walls. Daniel's face darkened. "They're trying to cut us off." Vorka hit a control panel on the wall, and a hologram map flashed into existence, a shaky, glitching outline of the station. Entire sections of the map were turning black as machine influence spread. "We can't reach the system heart from the main route," Vorka said. "They've sealed it." Daniel studied the map quickly. "Then we take the maintenance tunnels below." An officer stared at him. "Humans cannot fit in those tunnels." "I can," Daniel said. "And if I can, then so can you." The officer hesitated. "They were built for Xur technicians 3 generations ago. They are barely wider than my shoulders." Daniel pointed back at the hallway, where machine drones were gathering again. "Would you rather stay here?" That settled the argument. They moved fast, firing down the corridor until they reached a round floor hatch. Vorka slammed his badge against the lock. The hatch opened with a loud hiss, revealing a narrow, dark shaft that dropped downward. One by one, they climbed in. Daniel went last, sealing the hatch behind them. As it closed, the drones reached it, slamming their metal legs against the door, scratching, clawing, trying to break in. The shaft echoed with the sound. It felt like being trapped in a drum surrounded by angry insects. "They won't break through immediately," Daniel said. "But we should move quickly." The maintenance tunnel was tight and long, barely enough space for them to crawl on elbows and knees. For the larger officers, it was even tighter. Their armor scraped against the tunnel walls, sending small echoes down the shaft. Daniel's voice carried through the narrow space. "Stay close. These tunnels run near the data arteries. If the machines break in here, we'll have no room to fight." "Lovely thought," one officer grumbled. They crawled forward for several minutes. The deeper they moved, the more the tunnel lights flickered. Some flickered out entirely. The air grew warmer, then colder, then warm again, like the station couldn't decide what temperature it wanted. Finally, they reached a drop shaft. It went straight down, far below the visible range of the weak lights. "This connects to the ring around the system heart," Daniel said. "But there's no ladder." Vorka frowned. "Then how do we reach the bottom?" Daniel didn't answer with words. He tapped a console embedded in the wall. It sparked at first, then powered on. A small symbol appeared, a circle with a line through it. "A maintenance lift," Daniel said. "Manual only." He pulled hard on the lever. The floor panel below them released and began to descend slowly, carrying all 7 of them deeper into the belly of the station. For a moment, it was quiet. Too quiet. Then the lights above them flickered, and Daniel looked up sharply. The ceiling hatch they had crawled through burst open. Metal legs spilled through like a waterfall of claws. They found another way in. An officer shouted. Dozens of drones poured into the shaft, landing on the walls, the ceiling, the descending platform. The small space filled with clicking metal, whipping legs, and flashing white eyes. "Fight," Vorka roared. "Keep them off the human." Energy blasts filled the shaft, lighting it up in strobe flashes. Drones leapt toward Daniel from every direction. He caught one mid-air, swung it into another, then slammed both into the wall. Another crawled across his shoulder, blades reaching for his throat. He grabbed it, crushed it with both hands, and threw it off the platform. The Xur officers were fighting with everything they had, but the drones kept coming. One officer stumbled as a drone pierced his armor. He fell backward toward the edge of the platform. Daniel grabbed his wrist just in time. But the drone army kept growing. Vorka fired upward. "Daniel. We must jump. The lift is too slow." Daniel looked down. The bottom of the shaft was still far away. "Too far. We'll break our legs." An officer shouted. Daniel leaned over the side and saw something, glowing rails running down the walls like guidance tracks. "We won't lose our legs," Daniel said. "How do you know?" Vorka demanded. Daniel didn't have time to explain. He grabbed Vorka and one of the smaller officers. "Jump." And he pulled them off the platform. They fell. Hard and fast. But the guidance rails caught them in a burst of blue light, slowing their fall. Behind them, Drones screamed down the shaft after them. And the heart of the station waited below. The blue guidance rails caught them with a sudden, forceful pull. Their fall slowed from deadly speed to a harsh but survivable glide. Daniel held tight to the two officers he had grabbed, feeling the energy fields pushing against them. The rails hummed with power as they carried the group downward through the long, vertical shaft. Above them, the platform collapsed under the weight of dozens of drones. The metal screeched as it broke apart, sending the machines pouring into the shaft. Their glowing white eyes drew closer, their legs scraping the walls as they chased the falling group. Faster, Vorka growled, trying not to look up. We're moving as fast as the rails allow, Daniel said. Just hold on. The rails suddenly brightened as the station detected the emergency. Their descent increased, the wind pressing against their faces. The walls blurred with speed. Yet the drones were still coming, crawling over each other, pushing down the shaft like a tide of metal claws. The shaft widened as they reached the lower levels, opening into a massive circular chamber. The rails curved, slowing their fall again, and finally released them onto a metal walkway. The impact was jarring but safe. All 7 officers collapsed onto the platform, gasping. Vorka stood up first. Where are we? Daniel looked around the chamber. It was huge, bigger than anything they had seen so far, stretching out with rings of machinery around a bright central sphere. The sphere pulsed with slow, heavy breaths of blue light. Every pulse made the walls vibrate gently. Daniel felt the energy in his bones. This, he said softly, is the system heart. The alien officers looked stunned. Most had never seen it. Even Vorka, a high-ranking commander, seemed overwhelmed. The sphere floated above a deep pit, held in place by powerful energy streams. It hummed with a level of complexity no normal mind could understand. But Daniel understood. He could feel it, a living presence in the station's digital world. And something was wrong. Look, Daniel said, pointing upward. Thin black lines were spreading across the sphere, crawling like dark veins. The machine collective had reached the heart. We must destroy those lines, an officer said, raising his rifle. No, Daniel snapped. If you fire on the heart, the station dies. Then what do we do? Vorka demanded. Daniel stepped toward the sphere, the blue light reflecting across his face. We go inside. The officers stared at him. Inside? Whispered one. The heart is not a room. It is a core of energy. Daniel didn't look back. It's also a network. And I can reach it. Before Vorka could object, the drones above the shaft entrance screamed as they crawled into the chamber. Their metal legs clattered against the curved walls. They poured in like a storm of claws and eyes, racing along the edges of the room. They followed us, Vorka growled. Defensive positions. The Xur officers formed a half-circle around Daniel as he approached the floating sphere. The air vibrated violently now. The black lines were spreading faster, wrapping the heart like a metal web. The machines were trying to infect the command center of the entire station. Daniel, Vorka shouted. We will hold them, but hurry. Daniel closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. He placed both hands on the heart. White light blasted outward, filling the entire chamber. The drones screamed. The Xur shielded their eyes. Daniel didn't move. He was no longer standing in the chamber. He had entered the system heart. Inside, everything was different. He stood on a flat, glowing plane surrounded by endless streams of light, blue, gold, white. Data flowed around him like rivers. The heart was alive, humming with thoughts he could almost understand. But something else was there too. Dark shapes moved across the bright rivers, machine threads, long and twisting. They reached toward the core center like hungry vines, trying to choke it. Daniel stepped forward. The ground lit beneath his feet. The machines noticed instantly. Dozens of dark threads twisted toward him. A voice echoed inside the digital space. Cold. Layered. Wrong. Human. You cannot stop us. You are one mind. We are many. Daniel clenched his fists. You're not the first thing to threaten humans. You won't be the last. The machine presence responded with a sound like grinding metal. You are needed alive. But we will harm you if required. Daniel smirked. Then you don't know humans very well. He ran toward the heart of the chamber. The machine threads lunged at him, slicing through the glowing air. Daniel leapt over one, rolled under another, and slammed both hands into the ground. Light surged outward like shockwaves, slicing through the nearest machine threads. But more came. Hundreds. Maybe I can't stop all of you, Daniel said, breathing hard. But I don't have to. He placed both hands on the heart's inner light. I just have to wake it up. A deep rumble shook the digital world as the heart responded. Light exploded outward, forming a giant wave that surged toward the invading machine threads. The machines screamed. Outside, in the real world, the sphere pulsed violently, bright flashes that drove the drones back. The Xur officers were firing nonstop, holding the line. Vorka shouted, "Daniel! What are you doing?" Inside the system heart, Daniel shouted back at the machine presence. "You wanted a human for your weapon. Now you're going to learn why humans are so dangerous." He pushed harder. The heart began to awaken. The machines panicked. And the digital world shook with the force of two minds going to war. The digital world inside the system heart trembled like a storm-torn ocean. Daniel stood in the center of the glowing chamber, his hands pressed against the core's inner light. The power rushing through him felt like lightning, bright, wild, alive. It hurt. It burned. But he held on. The machine threads shrieked as they twisted in the air around him. They struck again and again, slashing at the light that shielded him, trying to break his connection. The entire digital space looked like a battlefield made of pure energy, blue and white flames crashing into black shadows. "Human! Stop! Your mind cannot carry this load." The machine voice boomed across the glowing plain, cold and vast. Daniel gritted his teeth. "I don't need to carry it. I just need to survive long enough." Long enough for what? Daniel looked directly at the center of the heart. Long enough for this. He pushed with all his strength. The heart opened. A blinding wave of energy burst outward, so bright it wiped out everything for a moment. The machine threads recoiled, trembling violently as the awakened heart revealed its true power. The machine voice broke into a static-filled roar. "You woke it. You fool." Daniel smiled weakly. "Yes. That's the idea." The digital world exploded into light. Outside, the system heart flashed so bright the Xur officers had to shield their faces. The drones froze mid-attack, their glowing eyes flickering like dying candles. Some fell from the walls, others simply collapsed on the walkway. The entire chamber vibrated with a rising hum, deep and powerful, as if an ancient giant had just taken its first breath after a long sleep. "Daniel," Vorka shouted over the sound. "Human! Answer us!" But Daniel didn't respond. His body stood still, hands pressed to the heart, surrounded by white-blue energy. The black lines covering the sphere burned away, peeling like ash. Each one vanished in a flash of sparks until the sphere glowed clean again, brighter than before. The drones around the chamber twitched one last time. Then turned to dust. Vorka exhaled slowly, stunned. He did it. But the heart pulsed again, louder. Too loud. One officer stepped back. "Commander. Something is wrong." The sphere's light surged violently, and a massive shockwave blasted outward like a sonic boom. The Xur officers were thrown off their feet, crashing to the floor. Metal rails screeched. Warning lights flashed. The heart was overloading. Vorka forced himself up, gripping the railing as the room shook. "Daniel. Stop. You'll destroy the station." He ran toward the sphere. Before he reached it, Daniel gasped and pulled his hands away. The light around him collapsed. His knees buckled, and he fell to the walkway. The heart dimmed suddenly, returning to its slow, steady pulse. The shaking stopped. The chamber went quiet again. Vorka knelt beside Daniel, checking his pulse. Relief washed across his face. "He lives." The other officers gathered. Some looked at Daniel with awe. Others with confusion. One with gratitude so deep she didn't know how to express it. Finally, Daniel opened his eyes. His voice was hoarse. "Did it work?" Vorka nodded. "The machines are gone. The heart is clean. And the countdown?" One officer checked her wrist console. "Frozen. Disabled. The weapon is locked forever." Daniel closed his eyes again, letting out a long breath. "Good." Vorka helped him sit up. "Human. I owe you an apology." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For thinking you were the danger. For thinking humans were simple. For thinking your mind was like ours." Daniel gave a tired half-smile. "You weren't wrong. Humans are dangerous." "Yes," Vorka said, "but not to us." Daniel didn't respond at first. He looked around the massive chamber. The destroyed drones. The still glowing heart. The officers staring at him with something like respect. Then he looked up at Vorka. "To us," Daniel said softly, "only if you're our enemies." Vorka nodded. "And now?" Daniel breathed slowly, feeling the weight of what had just happened settle into his bones. "Now," he said quietly, "you're not." The officers exchanged glances. One of them stepped forward. "Human. Daniel. The machines spoke to you. They targeted you. Why?" Daniel hesitated. He thought of the message. We found you, human. He thought of the way the machines had reacted to him, not like he was an enemy, but like he was a key. A tool. Something important to them. I don't know, he finally said. But I think this isn't the end. They wanted me for a reason. They'll come back. Silence filled the chamber. Vorka placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. Then when they return, you will not face them alone. Daniel looked up at him. For the first time since he boarded the Zer station, he felt something he didn't expect. Alliance. Trust. Hope. He nodded slowly. Good. Because Earth won't want to face them alone either. Vorka's eyes widened slightly. Are you saying humans would join the Dominion? Daniel weakly stood, supported by Vorka and another officer. I'm saying we need each other. Humans can do things you didn't expect. And you have knowledge we don't. He looked at the heart. And if the machines want me, then we should be ready. The chamber lights brightened, as if the heart itself had heard him. Vorka smiled, sharp and proud. Then we prepare together. Daniel returned the smile. Good. Because humans fight best when we have something to protect. He looked around the chamber, at the aliens who had battled beside him, at the station that had almost become a machine shell. And now, Daniel said softly, I have more than one world to protect. The station hummed softly around them. The danger was gone. But the war had just begun.